Hi, it's Tod of Tod's Workshop here, and today we're going to have a look at one of the great unanswered questions of medieval weaponry, which is, why is a Bollock Dagger called a Bollock Dagger? I don't know. Thing is, nobody else does either, but I do have a theory about why it's the case. It's obviously a rather curious name for a weapon, so we'll have a look at why I think it's come about. So starting at the beginning, the Bollock Dagger really was the must-have dagger for peasantry, and then really going on to sort of high-status noble people, really, from about 1300 all the way through to about 1550, really, where it starts to sort of morph completely into something else. I'm going to do another whole video on that, the timeline of Bollock Daggers. But one of the things is that they're generally, as a working weapon, they're relatively simple. They usually have a flat-backed blade. This one has got a light bevel on it, but it doesn't stop you putting your thumb on the back. Now that's important, because the origins of the Bollock Dagger, obviously we don't exactly know, but the first one I know of was, I think it was Norwegian, around about the year 1300. And in fact, this one is loosely based on that piece. Single-edged blade. The reason it's single-edged is very simply that it's a working knife. It's a poor man's knife. And if you have a double-edged blade, what that really means is that you can't use the back of it. You can't push your hand down, you can't put your thumb for control on carving and all sorts of things. You can stab people with it. That's about it. So single-edged blades for working, it's why all of the camp knives are always single-edged. It's the same thing. Any knife for actually doing jobs is a single-edged blade. It's the same with the Bollock Dagger. So that's how it started out. Peasant's knife, low status, and that's what we're looking at today. Later on, around about 1450, it starts to become posh. First 150 years, it wasn't. So we've ended up with this. It's cheap. It's a peasant's weapon. So you turn the handle. You go to the bodger in the woods, you get him to turn that. You know, as a blacksmith, I then plug that on the end of a blade. The job's done. You've got a handle. You've got a knife handle. It's just been burnt in there, you can see. So you just heat the tang, burn it in, then heat treat the blade. What it does mean, though, with a turned handle is two things. One, you have no edge alignment. So if you do need to fight with it, and of course, you know, it is a weapon as well as a tool. If you do need to fight with it, you can't tell here where that edge is in your fist. So if you lose your grip or something, you might end up slashing somebody with the side of the blade, which of course is not what you want to do. You need to know where that edge is. And so to do that, fighting knives very often have either the guard or the handle itself is not circular, okay? It is not round. But as a turned knife, you want it to be round. It's nice and cheap. What it also allows you to do with the cheap weapon, cheap knife, is it allows a guard for either working, where you're whacking, you know, you miss and you cut yourself or you slice against a log or whatever it is that you're carving up. Or if you are in one of those pub fights, doing some dagger and buckler work or whatever it is, you've got a guard there. But of course, if that guard was thin, made of wood and thin, it would just shatter off. So it needs to be quite thick. And so I think that's why you end up with like a bulk like this. That makes sense as a cheap guard. So there's no metal involved in the handle, dirt cheap, that's all it is. What it also means, though, is that you don't have any edge alignment on that, as discussed. The other is that you've got a great big bulk of material here that has to sit alongside you. And it's not a disaster, you can wear it with a rondel, but it is more comfortable if it's sliced off, and it does offer that edge alignment. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to cut the edges off this little turning that I've done, and we'll just see where that brings us. I very simply now just cut the edges off that guard. Now what that allows the knife to do is it can sit closer to your body, more comfortably, but also now you can move your hand onto the guard. Don't mean over the guard, but onto it. That now has locked it. It has turned it into a piece, a weapon, that now has edge alignment. I now know where that cutting edge is. So it's all square and hideously blocky, so you're not going to leave it like that. That's uncomfortable. So I'm just going to round that down a little bit, and we can just see the next stage. So here you can see, it's all just been cut off. Just going back earlier as well, you can see how I've burnt in the tang there. And here we have it. So I've taken that round turning that's cheap and easy to make. I've literally just cut the edges off. So hopefully you can see that. Now you could do that with you know, an axe or a bill hook or something. So again, it's cheap manufacture. And what you end up with now is a dagger handle this shape. It allows you to get edge alignment. You know where your hand is on that grip. It allows you to wear it comfortably close to the body, and it's dirt cheap. That's what you want in a peasant's knife. So that's the object. And I think very simply, if there's one thing we know about history, is that fundamentally nothing really very much changes. If we like a nice knob gag now, going, oh, isn't that funny? Somebody talked about bollocks. They did then as well, right? You know, so some clever guy is just going to go, oh, wow, you know, if you just carve a little bit down there, it's going to look like a cock and balls. That's the funniest joke I've seen in years. Funnier than the Black Death, that is. So there you go. And I think that that is why a bollock dagger is a bollock dagger. It's just very simply, it's a cheap way to make a guard. And some guy at the end of the whole process just went, wouldn't it be funny if you carve a slot down the middle there? Cock and balls, great joke. And so far it's lasted about 700 years. Thank you very much.